Iceland's government nationalised one bank last week. Overnight it did the same for Landsbanki.
The bell that opens trading on the Iceland Stock Exchange was again silent today.
Kaupthing today became the third banking giant in Iceland to come under government control.
The country's financial sector faces complete collapse.
Well, the stock market here in Iceland opened this morning for the first time this week, but this country remains in extraordinary economic difficulty.
You know, everybody was just spending money like crazy.
Everybody was buying something.
I think people acted stupid and some didn't want to take any responsibility.
Iceland was in very bad shape when they turned to the IMF for help. They were overwhelmed really by the size of the banking disaster, and under those very difficult circumstances they made some brave and I think ultimately sensible decisions.
Basically Iceland, almost by luck, by the sheer extremity of its situation, was forced into doing a much more nuanced policy than these harsh austerity and somehow confidence will save all that was followed elsewhere.
We learned several lessons from working with Iceland. First is that the use of unconventional measures like capital controls is appropriate in some circumstances, and that we shouldn't shy away from using these measures if they're needed.
This time the fund was flexible, was willing to embrace temporary capital controls, which were regarded as heresy 12 years ago. It's been willing to accept a program that protects the social safety net. It did not try to remake the society the way it did. So this actually, the fund is one of the from my sort of position, the fund has become a good guy in the system.
The IMF has been sort of transforming their policy, taking more notice of the welfare system and taking more notice of the need to have a just transition in periods like this.
In terms of fiscal austerity, there's obviously been a shift in IMF thinking since the Asian crisis in the late 1990s.
We were left ample room to choose the mix of measures on the fiscal side, to what extent we would earn revenue, on the expenditure side, to what extent we would cut expenditures, and in what sectors and so forth. That enabled us to find the best mixture that we thought would bring the society forward.
After the crisis, this will be opportunities for me to start working, because then companies will need people to work.
I think it's getting better. I'm not worried.
The main success in Iceland has been to avert a sovereign default. The fact that the country now is able to go to international capital markets, borrow at rates that are more favorable than Spain, signals the government has had quite a success.
This was our re-entrance to the international capital markets, first successful attempt for 5 years or so. So it was a milestone for Iceland, as well as successfully completing the program in end of August. These are two of the big achievements this year.
I think I'll go away, probably. And most people my age want to go away because they know they're not going to want to be here.
But it might have diminished the chance of me actually wanting to live in Iceland in the future.
We know also the brain drain that we are suffering, because these are those that have higher education, both skilled workers by the magnitude and university or academic educations. They are leaving. And that's of course frightening, because how are we going to sustain the growth of our export industries if you do not have the manpower to meet the challenges?
These are people that have qualifications that are sought after elsewhere, and if we're not able to have an environment that attracts these people, then we're in a lot of trouble.
We need to facilitate investments and create jobs.
I think actually Iceland could be the first country in the world that would, on a large scale, be relying on green, sort of the green economy.
We have excellent resources in abundance. We have very good people, and we have pretty competitive infrastructure. So there is going to be growth given the right conditions.
The human capital here is second to nowhere. And I'm sure they can build a prosperous, productive, modern economy on that basis.
I think that Iceland is doing amazingly well, considering. But that does not change the fact that internally we as a society have a lot of work to do.